On today's show, we share a field with the Reverend Hunter, a Minnesota outdoorsman and theologian who found his religion right here. We share our love of moving spring water and the creatures that call these places home. In the Minnesota destination marked by a most unique giant fish. Can you name the spot?
Minnesota Bound, presented by Connecticut Water Treatment Systems.
Hey everybody, Laura, Millie, and I welcome you to today's very green episode. Where are we?
We are in the Minnesota Landscape Arboretum, and it smells beautiful in here.
I love it.
Me too. Up first, the story of a Minnesota pastor who found his passion not only inside the church, but outside of it too.
Yeah, the Reverend Hunter goes in search of what he calls the God of wild places. Ron Scherer reports.
For Pastor Tony Jones, there was a moment that led him from a life in the church.
When Jesus says to his crowd of Jewish Hebrew listeners,
to a life in the woods. It happened when he picked up his hunting rifle.
Where's those snowshoes?
Reverend Jones had his reasons.
when I was about 40 years old, I went through a divorce that was very traumatic and very painful. And frankly, I was disappointed with how organized religion dealt with the suffering that I was going through. I always had thought that the church, organized religion, that was going to be my faith home, my spiritual home. And in the darkest moments of my life, it just wasn't.
Tony has been documenting his revelation for the last decade in a book aptly titled
The God of Wild Places, Rediscovering the Divine in the Untamed Outdoors. It was hard being at church, but it was amazing being out in the woods or being hunting pheasants.
Oddly, Tony found his true parishioners in the outdoors.
It's kind of countercultural to the world that I came up in, the academic world that I came up in. No one puts on airs when we're out there hunting. People care about, do you have a good dog?
The answer to that is yes.
Are there any other two species that cooperate and lean on each other and thrive in each other's company like dogs and humans? I don't think so.
Indeed, Chapter 4 of Tony's book is entitled Companions, dedicated to the dogs in Tony's life in the outdoors.
I drove the 90 minutes to Menominee. Mike introduced me to Albert, a fine-looking lab with broad shoulders and a large, blocky head.
Crosby is a 4.5-year-old yellow lab. I find that Crosby, his desire to please me is so strong that he will hunt and hunt and hunt.
Oh, good boy.
While Tony's Ivy League degrees served him in the church, he found in nature not so much.
Yeah, I sometimes joke that I've yet to meet another person with a PhD from Princeton and a duck blind. Nobody's trying to show how smart they are, how many books they've read. The stuff that we got hung up in academia, it just doesn't matter out there.
At the end of a good day of hunting, Tony preaches from a different altar.
People still have spiritual needs, and they're going to find ways to meet those spiritual needs. I think a lot of people are going to meet those needs outdoors. think my book will resonate with those kind of people who are saying, look, I might not go to church or synagogue or temple anymore, but I'm still a spiritual person.
In the words of Reverend Tony Jones, go outdoors in pursuit of the God of wild places.
Minnesota Bound is brought to you by Connecticut Water Treatment Systems, Star Bank, White Bear Lake Superstore, and by your boat club.
Mention a trout stream and my ears perk right up. Moving water is where I want to be. Here's why. A trickle of pure perfection. A sound so clear to those who understand. A constant 365 days a year. The kind of environment that invites a person
Talk about a beautiful spot.
to set up under the stars and stay a while.
Tomorrow should be epic. Good night. How pretty is that?
Pretty is a place near a trout stream, those spring-fed meanders full of cold water critters, the fish that turn anglers into addicts. It's the lure of fishing for trout on really any suitable stream. After all, trout take anglers to pretty places. Mick Rosenau and John Crabb understand these two covet their time together on trout streams.
John and I are good fishing buddies, and we come up here together. It's a lot of fun.
Especially when the game of cat and mouse becomes fish on.
That is a heck of a fish. I would love to get this one in. Come on, buddy. Woo! That is a beautiful fish. That's pretty good for this size stream. And that's the best part of it right there. There he goes. You see, I'm ready to go home now.
I'm never really ready to leave streams, even when autumn weather gives way to snow and cold. A trip best shared with friends.
Play as. Play as. Pure play as.
See, both Andy Roth and Dave Anderson guide fly fishing professionally, but today we're off the work clock.
Oh, there he goes. How's that one feel? Yeah. Ooh. We're in the 20s. We've got snow. We've got overcast skies. The fish are cooperating. I don't know how you could find a better spot to be. Ooh.
Those who fear weather take to another vice.
Yeah, we meet at Golden's Bar every Thursday night.
Everybody who's part of our club enjoys doing a lot of the same thing, fishing and tying, so it's one way to meet friends and see them every week.
Anglers tie tiny flies meant to trick trout.
This is called a whip finisher, and it just locks down the thread. It's fun just to have a drink, talk about fishing, and tie some flies.
I will always prefer the act itself over the daydream, especially in a spot like this.
Oh, there are bugs all over the place. It's gin clear, it's technical fishing, you gotta be quiet, you gotta throw perfect casts, but when you do, you are the man.
Big fun.
Got the fun out of him.
I smile all the time, man. Rainbow! Get out of my way. Moving water, where dreams come true. On Big Spring Creek, the big fish never get away. Except for today.
All I want for Christmas is a net.
Still ahead, we pay tribute to a very special tree. But first, a lure crafted way up north.
Closed captioning provided by Voyager Lodge and Houseboats.
All anglers have their favorite fishing lure, but in Grand Marais, one lure maker says his baits will become your next first choice. All it takes is one little flick.
Grand Marais, one of Minnesota's last pit stops for campers and anglers, people who load up on supplies and head to the North Woods. Chasing that dream walleye or trout? Then you might hit the Beaver House, a place pretty hard to miss.
The outside is really appealing with all the fish hanging out of it. It was easy to find.
The owner, Tyson Kronberg, a face known around Grand Marais.
My farthest memory is when I was probably 3 or 4. Yeah. I've been working in here my entire life. I used to pack night crawlers when I was 5, 6 years old. Count out night crawlers, put them in a bag and twist it up, and I'd make a penny a dozen or whatever. Then I'd go walk down to Joynes and buy some candy.
A passion he learned from his dad, the co-founder of the shop.
My dad and my uncle started in 1964, so it's just been our family since then. My dad fell in love with this area, and then they talked about starting a store, a clothing store is how it started.
The two started making lures and quickly noticed that's what people wanted.
And there's people waiting for them to get done with their lures. They could tell more people wanted lures than clothing. Which is how the Beaver House earned its fame. There isn't too many people that don't know about Beaver Flicks. Everyone in Minnesota probably knows about Beaver Flicks.
A handy one-of-a-kind lure.
It's just the simplest little thing. What it does is you use it with live bait, and so that little flicker just attracts them to your live bait, and then they go for the bait. I guarantee them to catch every kind of fish there is, or your money back in the summertime. I double guarantee them for ice fish.
Beaver Flick caught the eyes of more than just anglers.
A few years after he started making them, he noticed there's young girls coming in and buying all the different parts. And he asked them what they're making jewelry, and earrings, and he said, well, I can make some earrings, so he started making earrings.
Word of these baits spread outside state lines.
I got 3 Beaver Flicks. Our teacher told us that they handmade the tackle here, so I thought that was really cool and that would be something special to bring home.
This is the reason we're still on this corner for 57 years.
Still carrying the legacy of his dad's shop.
I love it. I live for fishing, and I've been in here my whole life, but I got to work with my dad most of my life, and it was awesome. I had great parents, very fortunate.
Minnesota Bound is brought to you by Flow Docks and Lifts, Coors Light, and by Totem Resorts, the premier destination for world-class fishing.
My dad, Ron Shera, likes to write about all kinds of wild creatures and natural resources.
Which is why a few years back, one particular tree caught his attention.
About oak trees, poet Mary Howitt once penned, "Sing for the oak, the monarch of the woods." In Minnesota, sing we do. Sing its praises such as, "Mighty oaks from little acorns grow." But first, an old question. What comes first, eggs or chickens, acorns or oaks? Well, do we care? We have the oaks, 5 species in Minnesota. We have the oaks, the leader of trees, the king of trees. What's more, the oak is America's national tree. So, mighty oak, this is your life. Spring has come to this Minnesota oak. Like all creatures, a time for rebirth, and oaks take no chances. Both male and female flowers appear, and in time an acorn grows. But it's in no hurry. It takes upwards of 6 months before the acorn is ready to leave its perch. As someone once said, today's mighty oak is just yesterday's nut that held its ground. As spring turns to summer, bare oaks turn to stately crowns rich with deep green leaves. It's a slow process. Oaks are never in a hurry. An oak may be 20 to 50 years old before it even produces an acorn. But when you live 200 or more years on average, what's the rush to parenthood? Oaks are made of tough fibers, and that's a good thing. Oak wood has many uses, from wine barrels to sailing ships to top-ranked firewood. Through the ages, oak trees also have been revered, a symbol of wisdom and towering strength. Some Indian tribes saw the oak as a symbol of longevity. The oak was even viewed as an aid to fertility if you gathered the acorns at night. As summer wanes and daylight dwindles, mighty oaks reflect the change. Leaves slowly lose their green, changing not to brilliant hues as do maples and popples. Rather, the oak's autumn leaves turn to the dull red of a tree not needing to beg for attention. And too, the acorns fall, to the delight of squirrels, deer, wild turkeys, black bear, even hogs down on the farm. Some autumns yield a bumper crop of acorns, other years not so many. It's said the bumper crop is the oak's way of survival, producing more acorns than critters could possibly eat. One tree might drop up to 2,000 acorns in just a few days. And then it's over. Winter arrives and a season of rest begins for the oak, although some oaks seem to be reluctant to give up their leaves, clinging to them as they rattle in the winter winds. Fortunately, falling snow and freezing cold are no match for the king of trees. The seasons change with impunity. It's been written, every noble achievement is a dream before it is a reality, just as the oak is an acorn before it is a tree. So, my friends, dream of planting an oak tree. Poet Bernard Shaw did. He wrote, "I took an acorn and put it in a pot. I then covered it with earth, not a lot. My oak tree for hundreds of years will live. Perhaps the most important thing, I had to give."
I think up next, a story about spruce or a wax about white pines.
Nice alliteration.
Oh, thanks.
Well, that about does it for us. We hope to see you back here next week.
In the meantime, Millie, what do we always say? Remember to introduce a kid to the great outdoors.
Transportation provided by Premier Transportation. Call 1-800-899-7433.